Pot holders come in many different shapes and sizes, but today we're going to be making this really quick and easy round one. It's a really useful household item as a standalone thing, or you can also make it as a set with this also quick and easy apron. This one is a crossback, sort of like a Japanese style apron. A lot of you really loved it, and I do have a full tutorial for it, which I'll leave at the end of this video. So if you're interested, definitely take a look. But right now, let's get going on making these. To create these pot holders, first of course, we're going to need some fabric. I like to use some medium weight cotton, medium weight linen, or a mix of both. These are natural materials and they're great for anything kitchen related, especially when it comes to contact with heat. Then we're going to need cotton batting. We will need more than this. It's just a little piece to show you, and so that way it all fits on camera. And then we're going to need Insul-Bright. It's a type of material that is commonly used in projects like these because it's made specifically to reflect heat back to its source. So in pot holders, it's especially useful. It is not that rare. You can usually find Insul-Bright in most of your craft stores, or you can also order it online, so whichever way is easier for you. From the main fabric, we're going to cut 4 circles with 9-inch diameter. 2 of the circles are going to be full circles. Here you see one and the other. And 2 other circles are going to be cut right straight down the middle. From the cotton batting, we're going to cut 2 circles with the same diameter of 9 inches. One is going to be a full circle and the other one split down the middle. From Insul-Bright, we're going to cut 1 circle with a 9-inch diameter. Actually, just slightly bigger than 9 inches because once we quilt it, sometimes it tends to sort of shrink up a little bit. And I should have done the same with cotton batting, but oh well, I already cut these out. So my Insul-Bright is cut just a little bit bigger than all of the rest of the circles. We will also need bias tape, or you can buy some. If you do buy, make sure that it's made out of natural materials. And all in all, we're going to need about 53 inches of length of your bias tape. As you can see, mine is kind of discombobulated because I was cutting this from fabric scrap. So I'm gonna be putting this all together in one long strip, and that should be enough for a little hook, also to finish up the edges of the sort of hand pockets and to finish up the edges of the entire pot holder. The width of this bias tape is 1.5 inches, and that is before it is folded. For the first step, we're going to take all of our half circles. So here you can see I have 2 pieces, wrong sides facing on one side, the same thing on the other side, and then of course we have 2 half circles of batting. So we're going to open these up and put the batting right in the middle. Then we will also need 2 pieces of bias tape that are longer than each one of these sides because we're going to wrap the cut edges with that bias tape. Now I don't quilt these parts before I sew them, but if you'd like, you can definitely do that. For me, this is going to be the right side of the project, so I'm gonna put a little pin in here so that way I know. My first step is to take the bias tape, place it right sides together on the back of the project, like so, and align it with the edge. Next, we're going to head to the sewing machine. Here, starting and ending with the back stitch and with about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch it with a regular straight stitch using cotton thread. Extra tip here, since we are going through so many layers, you might find that increasing the stitch length is going to help you do that easier. Plus, if you opt for a larger needle, that is going to help as well. Once this step is done, if we have our project right side up, so here's my pin that marks the right side of the project, this is what we're going to see. Next, one by one, we're going to give it a really good press and fold in the bias tape. Give it a good press from the wrong side first, then flip it over, and our task here is to make sure that as we fold in the bias tape, that it covers the original line of stitching. At the sewing machine, we're going to secure this bias tape on the right side of the project on the very edge of the fabric by using the same technique with a straight stitch. When that is done, now we can tidy up these little tails since we're not going to need them. Now I'm going to grab the 2 full circles of my cotton fabric, 1 circle of Insul-Bright and 1 circle of batting. I'm going to open these up, place a circle of batting right here, then place a layer of Insul-Bright, and then another piece of fabric on top. You can use pins, or you can also use these little clips to hold everything together, since this is quite thick. It's one pretty thick sandwich over here. To quilt this, you can go so many ways. You can go real simple, just straight lines up and down. You can go on a diagonal, or you can go with some sort of interesting wavy pattern. As you can see, I didn't do anything super elaborate, just straight lines, and it still looks good. Now we can simply tidy this all around, so that way we have a nice circle. To continue, I'm going to grab two of my half circles with the right sides facing up, and we're going to be placing them right on top of our quilted circle. And personally, I like to do this next step in 2 phases. It does take a little bit longer, but I do feel that it pays off in the end. I like to baste it with a straight stitch about 1/4 inch away from the edge all the way around. That way, when it comes for the next step, I'm not working with a whole bunch of pins or a whole bunch of little clips. And you can pin it on the bottom, so those 2 parts definitely don't move. This is the part where you definitely want to increase the stitch length and switch to a larger needle if you haven't done so, because the layers that we're going through are getting thicker and thicker. This extra step also gives us an opportunity to tidy up some of the slightly uneven edges if we happen to have some. To create a hoop, take a bias tape that's about 6 inches long and then stitch it on the very edge of the fabric, so that way you enclose all of the raw edges. Then place it right here at the very top, right where the 2 half circles come together, like so, and then baste over it. Here's what it's going to look like when done. As you can see, I have connected my bias tape into one continuous piece. Now let's choose where we're going to start, and I like to start somewhere a little bit offset from these spots, because here we already have quite a bit of bulk. So let's start, for example, right here at this radish. I'm going to grab a piece of bias tape, place it wrong side up, and then finger press one edge to the inside about 3/8 of an inch. Next, going back to the radish, we're going to flip this to the other side, and right here I'm going to place the bias tape, matching it with the edge of our pot holder, and place a clip. I'm not going to continue clipping or pinning it in the circle. Instead, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine right away. Here I'm working with a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and as you can see, I'm using my fingers in order to guide the bias tape and sort of mold it around the curve. When you're approaching the beginning where we started attaching the bias tape, if your bias tape is a little bit longer, then cut it, so that way it overlaps it by about 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters, and then stitch right to the very end. Heat definitely helps when working with bias tape, so I'm going to grab iron, and first I'm going to give it a little bit of a press. Then I'm going to flip it to the other side, grab the bias tape, pull it out like so, and now we're going to do the same as we did right here on these edges. So we're going to fold our bias tape in order to cover the original line of stitching. The bias tape should wrap around the edge without too many problems, but if you feel that it's a little bit too thick, you can always trim and grade the seam allowances. Now, in order to finish up the edge of the bias tape, all I do is tuck one under the other and then fold it in just like the rest. Once again, to secure this, we're using just a regular straight stitch, and we're stitching on the very edge of the bias tape, starting and ending with a back stitch. Now when done, in order for this loop to be facing up, flip it up and stitch over it one more time to secure it. With that, here's the look from the top side. This is where you would put your hand through like this. And if we flip it over, here's the look from the other side. If you made 2 of these, then you have a wonderful set. Now, as promised, if you would like to see how to make a cross-back apron, then you can see the video link right on your screens. I thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you soon.